Hi and welcome back to the Silverstone Museum YouTube channel, and I'm joined today by a very special guest. We've got Giles Richards with us. Giles, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, and thanks for having me.
Brilliant. Now, Giles, you are a journalist of some note and been around, I don't want to say this the wrong way, but a journalist that's been around the Formula One paddock for quite a while now. Am I right in thinking that?
Yes, I'm getting on, to say the least. But yeah, I've been at this for over a decade now, covering Formula One. It's great, it's fantastic. I can honestly tell you that I adore my job.
Brilliant, I bet you do. And you're here today because you've just written a new book that we're going to be having on sale at the Silverstone Museum, and I believe later on in the year we're going to do a little bit of a signing with you. But tell us about this new book you've got.
Well, as you can see, it's called F1 Racing Confidential, inside stories from the world of Formula One, and basically what I wanted to do was this. I had an idea that I wanted to tell the stories of people behind the sport. Everyone knows about the team principals and the drivers. We see them, they're on television, they speak to everyone. But I wanted to introduce all the other people that actually make it happen, and there are hundreds of them. So I thought, originally what I thought I would do is I would tell the story of what their jobs were: mechanics, engineers, race strategists, aerodynamicists, all these people without whom it wouldn't happen. And to do so, I started speaking to them. And as I did that, what happened was the whole concept of it changed, because I discovered that the stories of how they got to Formula One was just as interesting as what they did there. And so I pivoted it to tell those stories as well. So I've got about 20 different people in the book, the way they came to Formula One and what they do on a race weekend, and they are all, without exception, fascinating people.
It is brilliant. I've had a quick flick through, and the bits that stood out to me is you focused on areas that you wouldn't normally think of. As you talk about, there isn't so much about the drivers and things. Bits like logistics. I mean, we've got a partnership with DHL, and they do all of the F1 logistics as well as a number of other motorsport logistics. But when you start digging into their job roles, it's a huge expanse of opportunities for people there, aren't there?
It's absolutely enormous, and they are roles that people know very little about. You know, they happen in the background. The Formula One teams are quite reticent to let you talk to them because, of course, these people aren't media trained. They're not like the drivers, etc. You know, they're not used to having a microphone shoved at them. So they're a bit reticent. But once you get them talking, to learn their roles is absolutely fascinating. As you say, just things like logistics. No one understands how complicated that is. And there's the logistics of how teams work, of how a car works. For example, there's about 14,500 individual parts on a Formula One car. Someone has to keep track of all those, and there is a logistical person in each team who will be doing that.
Yeah, it's a mammoth task. I also notice in the book there's a bit of a nod to the future, because at the end you start talking to people who are involved in esports and simulators and that kind of thing. Tell us about how that part of it involved.
Well, that was, interestingly, that's something I'm out of my depth on, to be honest with you. I'm totally okay with all the Formula One stuff. Esports is a different league to me, and that was brilliant. I got Lucas Blakely, who's the McLaren Esport World Champion, Formula One Esport World Champion, to talk me through it, and he was fascinating, absolutely fascinating about how his rig is set up at home. And I mean, he's another one of an interesting case in that he wanted to be a driver, of course, couldn't quite make it, too expensive.
Didn't we all?
Exactly. And so he took to esports, and it turned out how do you think. What I loved about one of the things he told me was that, for example, he races in his socks. That's how, so he has a real feel for the pedals. So completely different to how real Formula One works, but nonetheless absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, and I love the bit in there that he sat in his bedroom practicing with a helmet on while he was practicing as well. I love those little bits of detail. Yeah. Well, this book is out now, but it's going to be on sale at the museum that people will be able to, visitors will be able to buy. Also, we're going to do a signing with you at some point soon, which is going to be brilliant. I have to ask, though, because we ask everyone we interview, this year's Formula One season in 2024 is really turning into one that I don't think people were expecting. A lot of people were thinking it was going to be the Red Bull steamroller that was going to dominate, but that's clearly not the case. Who do you think's going to win it, and why?
Well, as you say, if you'd asked me that question 3 or 4 months ago, I would have put my house on Max Verstappen winning it, and I'd have felt pretty confident as well. At the start of the season, that was definitely the case. Everything's changed in the last 4 or 5 races since Miami, basically. So Lando's in the fight now, properly in the fight, as we saw in Austria. I still think, as you're putting me on the spot, I'm gonna hedge my bets and still go with Max. But I really like to think that Lando will be able to push him right to the end. It would be brilliant to see if this could go to the last 2 or 3 races.
Yeah, we certainly see Lando's very popular with our visitor base here. The amount of visitors that come through the museum with their Lando T-shirts on, he's clearly very popular. And that other team in red, they're always pretty popular too, and a couple of good results for them already this year.
Yeah, you see, this weekend, or the weekend of the British Grand Prix, the amount of Lando merchandise you see around. I always walk around the track and I talk to fans, and he's absolutely enormous here. He's got a real fan base. Although I should add that I saw similar in places like Miami and other places. He's got a broad appeal as Lando. So, but yeah, Ferrari. Well, two interesting things about Ferrari. I think this season is one they've sort of gone off the boil recently, but I think they will come back. And also the second thing is everyone's looking at how good they will be because Lewis will be there next year.
Absolutely.
So I imagine we'll see a bit more red at Silverstone next season
next
as well.
year the place will be painted red, won't it? I think it'll be
absolutely.
Huge. Giles, it's been great to have a chat with you. Good luck across the rest of the season. Do you get to go to all the races this year?
Most of them. Most of them, yeah.
There's going to be a lot of people watching this that are going to be very, very jealous. Yeah. Good luck for the rest of the year, and we'll take your nod on Max and Lando for the championship. Thank you.
Thanks very much.